Thank you, Mr. Carl. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would urge adoption of this legislation, and if my colleagues on the other side of the aisle care about the impacts of drought, certainly I would hope that you would join me in supporting this legislation as it increases water storage. I would like to speak to a few of the things that the gentlewoman had mentioned. I love to hear that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are all of a sudden worried about the taxpayers. I would like to remind them that last Congress, under one-party rule, this body forced the American taxpayers to spend trillions of dollars we don't have. This reckless spending unleashed record inflation on Americans that has declined our bank and retirement accounts, increased gas prices to record levels, raised utility bills, drove up grocery costs, and made it harder to live for my constituents in Colorado. The primary root cause of this record-breaking inflation was trillions of dollars of wasteful federal spending. We are now over $32 trillion in debt. My bill does none of this and actually generates early revenue for the Treasury. When originally authorized, this program was very successful. With 86 contractors deciding to prepay what they owe the federal government, generating $344 million for the water storage account. This means hundreds of millions of dollars were generated for new water infrastructure and water storage projects, which are vital to combat drought in the West while decreasing federal paperwork requirements and operating costs for water users, many of whom support this legislation. When this provision was enacted under the WIN Act, CBO projected that this provision would expedite payments and generate $639 million in receipts for the Treasury from repayment over the fiscal year 2015 to fiscal year 2024 period. So CBO said it was proven that this authority is actually good for taxpayers. And I would like to also revisit something the gentlelady had brought up with the WIN Act and providing a one-size-fits-all approach. Permanently extending this authority simply gives water users a voluntary option, as participation is not mandatory. It is not a one-size-fits-all, and this is an option water and municipal users wanted that was driven from the bottom up and was authorized previously with strong bipartisan support. It doesn't remove any congressional oversight. In fact, it reinstates Congress's authority over this program and these repayments. And the gentlewoman had also argued that it provides subsidies to agriculture. Again, under federal law, the beneficiaries of reclamation, water storage, and delivery projects must repay all infrastructure costs under the federal government. Beneficiaries pay principal. This bill provides no subsidies, and they must repay all costs. So the argument there is false, and it's an attack on agriculture. And finally, there are no subsidies in this bill. The bill does not change the amount of water that water users are authorized to use after they have repaid what they owe the federal government for water infrastructure. This shouldn't be a controversial bill. It allows simply for water users to repay the terms of their loan early, as you would pay off a home if you had the money to do so. And again, I urge adoption of my bill, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I yield time back.
Gentleman, yield.